We all have a baseline assumption about how history works. We expect a clean script, like a perfect row of falling dominoes. But have you ever heard a historical fact so absurd, so mathematically improbable, that your immediate reaction was to accuse the person telling you of lying to your face? Our brains are desperate to find patterns and logic in everything. Reality, however, is under no obligation to be well written. We are going to look at a few historical events so completely removed from logical probability that they break our basic expectations of how reality functions, proving the truth is entirely chaotic. Think about how humans discover things. Logic dictates we would map our own backyard before we started charting deep space. Scaling out from Earth to visualize the timeline of astronomical discovery highlights a massive chronological glitch. The seventh planet, Uranus, was formally discovered in the deep cosmos in 1781. Now compare that to our own planet. The massive frozen continent of Antarctica wasn't definitively sighted until a Russian expedition arrived there in 1820, nearly 40 years later. Before that, we were guessing. Look at this 1570 map. Mapmakers confidently drew a completely fictional continent across the southern pole to balance the globe. Meanwhile, European astronomers were tracking planets, while geographers filled maps with imaginary lands. The timeline of human discovery doesn't follow a neat outward expansion. We reached into the stars decades before we finished checking our own planetary borders. When we think of international warfare, we picture massive, grueling campaigns stretching across years. In 1896, the British Empire demanded that a new pro-independent sultan in Zanzibar step down. Instead of surrendering, the defiant sultan completely refused, firmly locking himself inside his massive wooden palace. In response, the British positioned 4 heavily armed Navy gunships in the harbor and opened fire, instantly turning the wooden palace into kindling. The sultan fled, and the defenders surrendered. From the first shell fired to the moment the white flag went up, exactly 38 minutes passed. It remains the shortest recorded war in human history. If that defies your sense of scale, let's look at a mathematical anomaly. The oceans during the First World War were a vast, empty expanse, where encountering a specific vessel was a statistical longshot. Off the coast of South America, the German ship Cap Trafalgar decided to set a trap. The crew meticulously disguised their vessel to look exactly like a specific British ocean liner, the HMS Carmania. They waited for a British patrol to approach. Eventually, a ship spotted them and came to investigate. By sheer absurd coincidence, the ship that found the disguised German vessel was the actual HMS Carmania. The real British captain recognized his own ship's silhouette, realized he was looking at an imposter, and engaged. After a brief firefight, the real Carmania sank its own doppelganger. Wars don't adhere to dramatic pacing, and naval battles don't care about the laws of probability. Sometimes reality plays out like a poorly drafted comedy sketch. We also assume that biology follows strict rules. When a supreme historical figure dies, we expect it to be a definitive, medically straightforward event. When Alexander the Great passed away in 323 BC, his body reportedly did not begin to decompose for 6 straight days. To his followers, this suspended state was undeniable proof that he was a literal god. Modern medical experts look at his symptoms and point to a much darker reality. Alexander likely suffered from Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare neurological disorder where the immune system attacks the nerves. He wasn't a divine corpse. He was experiencing severe paralysis. He was locked in, completely conscious, hearing and feeling everything, as his generals declared him dead and prepared him for burial. Then there is the ultimate assumption about survival, the idea that lightning never strikes twice, especially with a nuclear blast that instantly levels a city. On August 6, 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was wrapping up a business trip in Hiroshima. He witnessed the blinding flash of the first atomic bomb and dove into a ditch as the shockwave tore through the shipyard. Suffering from burns and ruptured eardrums, he rested in an air raid shelter. He caught a train back home, visited the local hospital, and incredibly reported to his office. His boss demanded a report.
When Yamaguchi described a single bomb wiping out Hiroshima, his boss called him crazy, insisting such a weapon was physically impossible. At that precise moment, the second atomic bomb detonated outside their window. Yamaguchi survived that second blast, too. He lived with his injuries for decades, eventually becoming an official spokesperson against nuclear arms. Human biology and the random luck of survival can absorb astronomical extremes, leaving us with outcomes that logic cannot cleanly process. A war that ends in under an hour, a paralyzed king listening to his own funeral, a naval imposter meeting its exact twin, and a man who survived 2 nuclear detonations in 3 days. These events strip away the narrative comfort we cling to. The universe simply does not care what we find believable. In a way, we are all Yamaguchi's boss. We sit in our offices, projecting our limited, tidy logic onto a vastly complex world, completely confident we know the rules, right up until the blinding flash of reality proves us wrong. So the next time someone tells you an impossible history fact, before you immediately call them a liar, remember, history is infinitely weirder than our logic allows.